One last rev?
Huh?
One last rev?
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, that's so loud. It's right there. Oh, I love this guy. Oh. Wow.
If you asked me when this obsession began, I'd have a hard time giving you an answer. As far as I can remember, I've always been this way. Passionate, loud, obnoxious even. When it came to cars at least. Or I hope so. I can fondly think back to my childhood years when my mom would buy me a Hot Wheels every time we visited Walmart. I guess having a car-loving husband must have influenced her. I would drive my Hot Wheels on my city playmat until the sun went down, and then I'd play with it the whole day again. It wasn't about living day to day back then. It was about fulfilling my desires. I wasn't dragging toy cars on playmats. I was creating movies. And since you could be selfish as a kid without being an outright prick, I was always the center of attention. I was winning street races, escaping police pursuits. It was a tough world out there, and I was thriving in it. I didn't give a shit what I had to do in the next hour, 30 minutes, or even 15. I was a kid with a vivid imagination, unknowing of any damn boundaries. One day during my kindergarten years, I was offered the spectacular opportunity to create a poster about me. It required my name, my role model, and what I wanted to be in the future. Long story short,
My name is...
Hamza Heki.
He's hot AF.
It's really nice to meet you all.
Regardless, my role model was Lightning McQueen. Apparently, I watched the Cars movie on repeat during my childhood. Everywhere I'd go, the CD and its case followed. I've watched that CD in over 15 to 20 different houses, according to my parents. Looking back, I was practically destined to be obsessed. Not that I'm complaining. Oh, and before I forget, what I wanted to be in the future? Race car man. You get the idea. I was a kid obsessed with cars, the Disney franchise, and the real deal too. Fast forward a couple of years, and we end up moving back to India to take care of my grandparents. With a hefty import tax and a general lower pay, the car scene in India lacked variety. As I further sit back with warm sunlight shining onto me, reminiscing about memories I'll never forget, a magical one comes to mind. My dad had to stay in Singapore for a couple of months due to a business project, so he called us over because he was all alone. I vividly remember we were walking on the streets in and around downtown. That's when my dad abruptly stopped in his tracks and pointed towards something. As my expression slowly turned to confusion, my head too turned in the direction of his pointed finger. A genuine dream, with the yellow badge of a prancing horse, stood in an enchanting red. That was, as far as I remember, the first time I saw a dream. Unbeknownst to me, it was oil to my ever-growing and never-extinguishing fire. Ferraris weren't the only thing that fascinated me though. I remember how excited I was when a BMW 5 Series came to chauffeur my dad to the airport. I remember my dad woke me up early on a Sunday just to check the car out. I would not have tolerated that in any other circumstance. I still remember how stoked I was, and how fast my heart pumped blood to the rest of my body. These were the days I started getting into the car scene on YouTube. Stradman videos became an everyday necessity before school, and Jack Ultramotive purchased his first supercar, an Audi R8, at age 18 years old. I'd come back home to my most treasured possession, my Thrustmaster Ferrari 458 steering wheel for the Xbox 360. I'd race in Horizon 2 to gain enough credits to collect yet another car. just so I could cruise in free roam on the silent country roads of Italy, listening to the nostalgic Forza radio without a worry in the world. Just me and the road. I was slowly growing certain of something, a particular dream. And all of this, the Hot Wheels, the Pixar movie, the casual car spotting, and my dad's passion for the art of driving, all of it, as if the universe wanted it to, all aligned and further propagated my current ever-growing interest in the world of automobile and driving. But before we head any further, there is a caveat to this we haven't acknowledged so far. Most of the car culture I had experienced was mostly through hearing stories of others being the subject to them, may that be through YouTube or through pictures and alike of people closer acquainted with me. But despite being so emotionally invested in the absolutely fascinating world of these wonderful machines, I hadn't grasped the opportunity to perceive such passion with my own two eyes. Yet, all things come to him who waits, provided he knows what he is waiting for. Woodrow Wilson. That's a pretty dog shit quote, not gonna lie. Shit or not, deserved or not, I for sure knew what I was waiting for. Chase after a girl long enough and she'll like you back, right? With tickets booked to the US, I set foot onto my motherland once again. After a long 11 years of separation, I was back to where it all started. A Mustang roared past us across the airport, and my dad looked at me in anticipation. I was ecstatic. This was it. I knew this was going to be a trip I remember forever. Even ignoring this as my birthplace and all the friends and people who loved me that inhabited this land, the cars were enough to make me giddy. And God, was I giddy.
Okay, let's go.
As we pulled into the parking of our hotel, everyone except me and Dad left. I just stood there, puffs of cold air escaping my mouth and my hands digging deeper into my snow jacket. For a moment, everything went silent around me. The voice of my dad on the phone with the nearest pizza place faded into the distance, and the sound of the highway traffic passing by us grew continually distant. And as the night stretched on, I stared at the salt dust on our Camry and Mustang alike. And as I stood there out in the winter cold, a feeling of warmth took over my body, and with a sigh of relief, I whispered to myself, I want to be in this moment forever. And to be fair with you, this time around wasn't the first time I'd ever driven a car, but it was certainly by far the drives I'll remember for a lifetime, regardless if better experiences come my way, which I'm sure they will. As I set foot into Walmart for the last time this trip, my eyes darted towards the Hot Wheels rack, and as I continued to take a closer look, my brain went back to the reason why all of this started in the first place. Images of my first ever toy car my mom bought me flashed through my head. The legendary Ford GT40. The faded paint and the discolor tells its course, but that's what's so beautiful about it. It was the catalyst to my burning passion. I made a mental note to search for it among all my other toys and treasure it until my dying breath. That faithful day, I vowed to keep it safe. And with that, the die-casts of some of the most iconic cars decorate my shelf, alongside a number of books and manga. Maybe I'll rant about those another time on here. But you know, the more you live, the more you realize that nothing lasts forever, nor does life itself. Such is just the nature of life. And just like that, we tend to lose our passion for a living. And slowly, everything grows dull. We do what we do for the sake of doing it. We wake up because we have to. We go to work because we have to. All in all, we have responsibilities we can't shake off. And sometimes you can run away from life. But still, if you can't run away from what you hate, why don't you chase after something you love? As I've reiterated earlier, there are parts of ourselves which we lose as we continually grow older. But there are parts of you that you are better off holding on to. As I sat in the cockpit of yet another car and turned the key to the audible roar of the engine, for one last time, I thought of the road I've traversed to reach this point. I thought back to the inception of all of this. And as I put the car in drive and slowly let off the brake, I fondly thought of the GD40 that rests atop my desk. And as I pressed the accelerator further, I thought of the dream I used to ponder about as I drove around the streets of Italy in Horizon 2. And as I pulled out of the driveway and finally onto the road, a smile took over my strained face. And I thought to myself, I'm grateful for how far things have come. With all my life ahead of me, I want to not only realize this dream I've been chasing for myself, but also for my dad. I can't do for him what he's already done for himself, but I want to repay him and my mom in any way I can. If you wish for my dream to be realized, then maybe leave a like. And if this video made you feel something, then I've achieved what I set out to do. Until next time.